What truly survives when money goes bankrupt? It's a question every civilization has faced, again and again. Empires, republics, and modern nations all have believed their currency would last forever until the day it didn't. When the notes become worthless and the numbers meaningless, what's left isn't wealth or power, but the story of how people adapt when belief itself collapses. You see, money isn't real in a physical sense. It's not the paper, the coin, or the code. It's trust. A collective belief that the token in your hand can be exchanged for something valuable. Once that faith evaporates, even the most carefully designed economy disintegrates. History's greatest financial collapses all begin with the same illusion, that governments can bend trust without breaking it. Let's look at ancient Rome. For centuries, the silver denarius was the backbone of one of the world's mightiest empires. But war is expensive, and conquest demands a constant flow of gold and silver. As the empire grew, so did its appetite. When Rome could no longer pay its soldiers with real silver, it started to cheat. It diluted the metal, reduced its purity, and stamped the emperor's face on worthless coins. At first, people accepted them. But markets are never fooled for long. Merchants raised prices, soldiers demanded more pay, and inflation spiraled out of control. By the 3rd century, the Roman economy had lost its backbone. Trade collapsed and local economies reverted to barter. Peasants paid taxes and grain, soldiers were rewarded with food and land instead of cash. The idea of money itself had died, but the need to exchange value never stopped. Rome's economy transformed into one of survival, not prosperity. When the empire finally fell, it wasn't just because barbarians broke through the walls. It was because trust in its currency had already rotted from within. Fast forward 1,000 years, and Europe saw the same drama unfold. In the early 1600s, the Kipper and Whipper crisis swept across the continent. Princes and city-states began clipping and debasing coins to fund wars and pay off debts. Overnight, markets collapsed. Merchants refused to accept local money. Cities created their own currencies, and commerce dissolved into chaos. It was a medieval replay of Rome's downfall, proof that technology changes, but human behavior doesn't. Then came the modern age, paper money, central banks, and the belief that printing could solve any problem. That illusion lasted until Germany, 1923. The Weimar Republic printed marks to pay reparations, wages, and debts. Prices doubled by the hour. People literally burned banknotes for warmth. Children played with bundles of currency as if they were building blocks. Money had lost all meaning. Yet even then, life went on. Farmers traded eggs for coal, tailors exchanged suits for bread, and foreign currencies replaced the worthless mark. The economy didn't vanish. It morphed into something raw and human, an economy of direct exchange and survival. This is the secret few economists dare to admit. When money dies, it doesn't destroy value, it redistributes it. The middle class, holding savings and salaries, loses everything. The wealthy, who own land, factories, or gold, watch their debts evaporate and their real assets soar in value. And those at the bottom? They survive, as they always have, through networks of trust, barter, and black markets. We saw this again in Zimbabwe during the 2000s. Salaries were paid in wheelbarrows full of cash. Inflation reached the absurd figure of 79 billion%. But markets still existed, not official ones, but shadow markets. People used US dollars, South African rand, or simply traded goods directly. In Venezuela, as the bolivar collapsed, citizens found new lifelines through cryptocurrency, dollar bills, and informal barter groups. Every time governments lose control of money, the people reinvent it. Because money is just a language, and when one alphabet fails, humanity invents another. Look at Argentina's 2001 crisis. Banks froze accounts overnight. Middle-class families found themselves locked out of their own savings. But within weeks, thousands of barter clubs appeared across the country. Local communities printed their own notes, called creditos. These weren't counterfeit. They were trust tokens, backed by social agreement instead of law. Markets operated in schoolyards and parking lots. People traded bread for repair work, medicine for clothes. They had, in essence, rebuilt an economy without a government, proving that commerce is an instinct far older than any central bank. In every collapse, two forces emerge: fear and adaptation. Fear drives people to hoard gold, food, anything tangible. Adaptation drives them to create alternative currencies, underground trade, or digital escape routes. When the 2008 global financial crisis hit, the modern world came dangerously close to a new kind of monetary collapse, not of paper, but of confidence. Banks stopped trusting each other, credit froze, and entire economies trembled. The solution, ironically, was the same one emperors had used centuries before: create more money. Central banks printed trillions of dollars electronically, calling it quantitative easing. The digital age's version of coin debasement. The currency didn't die, but it was quietly devalued. That crisis also gave birth to something unexpected: Bitcoin. A currency without a state, without a central authority, built entirely on math and belief in code. To many, it was a rebellion against a financial system that had lost credibility. In a sense, Bitcoin was a symptom of the same ancient disease. The search for trust after faith in government money fades. So, what survives when money goes bankrupt? The first thing is real assets: land, resources, tools, and skills. In every crisis, ownership of tangible value becomes the new currency. The farmer with food, the mechanic with tools, the builder with materials, these are the people who hold true wealth. The second thing is networks: families, local communities, underground traders, or digital collectives. When official systems fail, social capital becomes real capital. In Weimar Germany, bartering networks saved lives. In Zimbabwe, black markets fed families. In Argentina, community markets replaced banks. The state may collapse, but the human need to cooperate always finds a way. The third thing that survives is knowledge, not just technical skill, but understanding. Knowing how value works, how to produce, repair, and trade, this is the ultimate hedge against chaos. The illiterate suffer most in economic collapse, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack information. The wise adapt, the rigid perish. Every generation believes its money is different, safer, smarter, more permanent. Romans thought silver was eternal. Germans thought printing presses could outpace debt. We think our digital dollars are immune because they exist on screens instead of in vaults. But history says otherwise. The medium changes, the myth remains. When debt outweighs production, when speculation replaces labor, and when governments print to solve problems they refuse to fix, collapse is not a question of if, but when. Yet collapse isn't the end. It's the reset button of civilization. After Rome fell, feudalism rose with wealth tied to land. After Weimar, Germany built a new currency backed by real estate and productivity. After 2008, the world learned to fear debt, and yet it returned to it even faster. Because humanity forgets quickly, and money is the most seductive myth ever written. Still, something beautiful emerges from every monetary ruin: resilience. When people are forced to rebuild trust, they rediscover what truly matters: production, cooperation, and purpose. The baker no longer thinks of profit margins. He thinks of feeding his neighbors. The craftsman doesn't measure value in currency, but in usefulness. Collapse strips away illusion, revealing the raw truth beneath all economies, that value is created by people, not paper. If the global financial system were to fall tomorrow, if the screens went dark, if the currencies vanished, trade wouldn't stop. It would mutate. Some would barter, others would use crypto, some might even return to gold. The medium would change, but the human instinct to exchange would endure, because economies are not made by governments, they are made by us. In the end, when money goes bankrupt, three things remain: trust, adaptability, and memory. Trust allows people to cooperate when institutions crumble. Adaptability allows them to create new systems from nothing. And memory, the lessons of past collapses, teaches the next generation not to repeat the same mistakes. So perhaps the real question isn't what survives when money goes bankrupt, but what will we choose to preserve? Will we cling to the illusion that paper or code defines wealth? Or will we remember that the truest currency is human resilience itself? Because no matter how many times money dies, the story of survival never changes. When gold loses its shine, when dollars lose their power, when banks close their doors, what endures is the same ancient force that built every civilization: the ability of people to believe in each other again. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey through history thought-provoking, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that makes you think. See you in the next one.